So I'm going to take you through this morning how to set up an ExamSoft quiz. That starts with making questions and then putting together the assessment, quiz, exam, and then posting the exam so that the exam can be then run on an app on the student's iPad. So we'll start by logging in. Important if you have Chrome to be using Chrome. ExamSoft seems to work best in Chrome above Safari. And so when you launch ExamSoft, you see that there's the basic features are spread across the top. Questions, rubrics, which we can cover in an advanced session, assessments, categories, reports, and then exam takers. We start with questions. So ExamSoft works in the way that that there are a bank of questions that you can pull from. And so the first thing you do is you set up your questions. And so as you can see, there's multiple kinds of question formats, including multiple choice, true, false, essay, matching, and then you can import questions as well. And those questions can come from an external document, such as a Word file saved as an RTF, or another kind of file, for example, an Excel file. And I'll go over that in a separate movie. That's really useful if you have exams that exist already in those formats. So I will go over that separately with you. So the first thing we would want to do is set up, let's say, a multiple choice question. And so I'm going to be setting up questions that I will later bring into a photography exam or quiz. And so let's start with the title, and let's see, we'll call this Exposure to Quiz. This will be about exposure. And I'm now going to determine where I want to store these particular questions. So thinking ahead in terms of how your department wants to categorize and make their folders is really kind of important. Having that thought ahead of time is really good. So under visual arts, I have digital photography, graphic design. These are my two classes. It looks like Carl has Western art and modern art, so we'll go ahead. We'll start with digital photography. Now, I can even drill down further. So let's say I wanted to not just put a whole bunch of questions under digital photography, but I actually wanted to separate those out even further. So right now I have two subfolders under digital photography, and I could even make yet another folder if I wanted to. So the way to do that would be to come over here, click New Folder, and that is how I would make a subfolder under digital photography. But for right now, I'm happy putting everything under exposure. Grouping is, you would use grouping if you wanted to put a series of questions together that you would use so that those questions would stay together if you decided to do a randomized question quiz. And then, of course, this is adding and removing categories, which we can talk about later. Let's go ahead and let's set up the first question. And let's see, I'll be talking about shutter speed. So I'll be asking students which shutter speed would be best for freezing the watery action of a swimmer competing in a tight race in direct sunlight. All right, and then I'll put my answer choices. First answer could be 1/1000th of a second. The second answer then, coming down to the next form space, would be 1/2000th of a second. The next answer would be 1.25 seconds, and then finally I'll give them 1/2 second as an option. Now, over here, this is where we determine which answer is correct. So we'll mark number 2 as being the correct answer. Some students may choose A, and in the grading part, I can show you if you determine that you would accept multiple answers under certain situations. You can actually go and accept answers if you decide to on the grading side. I probably, in this case, I will only accept 1/2000ths because of some of the conditions of the questions. And then, of course, if you want to, you can always delete the answer, or you can add a new answer choice in the um, instance that you would want to have more than 4 questions. Okay, so anyhow, we go ahead and then we save those. So there's a difference between saving and approving. Saving means that we like the question, but we can still edit the question later on. Maybe we're kind of just developing these as draft questions, and that's really how they appear, as draft questions. An approved question means that we've gone beyond the point of a draft question. The question is approved, and we actually want to later on be able to access that question as part of an assessment. So saving and approving, 2 different steps. Approving is what you need to do to a question to make it accessible for building the assessment later. Okay, so let's go back and let's take a look at the other kinds of things that we can do in terms of making questions. We have true false. Pretty straightforward. You just ask the question, and then of course answer whether it's true or false. Pretty straightforward.